Hi, I'm Josh McDonald.
And I'm Miranda and we are Hand Therapy Academy.
We're going to talk a little bit today about one, like a difficult diagnosis, a diagnosis that for me is one I struggle with how best to help patients because it's not one with great outcomes in general, and that's osteoarthritis, specifically of the IP joints of the hand.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you were talking about your case, and I actually had a very similar case with the patient was actually a physician, and we were talking about what do you do when they're almost getting fused, right? And we know the only indication for an arthroplasty is pain because they don't typically improve joint range of motion. Um, and so, can you improve those? Can you prevent them from getting worse? Or are you going straight to adaptive equipment?
Yeah, and I had a patient come in, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago, and I had the standard conversation. It was a referral test for hand therapy from a rheumatologist, and it was here's adaptive equipment, here's some modalities that can help with pain, here's some energy conservation techniques, but there's not a whole lot we can do to change the status of your joints. And she was unhappy. She said, I came in here with some hope that maybe you could make it better. And she was frustrated at me because she said, you told me, like, and I was in this stuck position because I tried to do it obviously very graciously, and but at the same point, like here I am telling her your hands are where they are. And so when today's patient came in, I'm like, okay, I want to have an even softer approach to that, but I shouldn't be doing aggressive range of motion to gain range. Some of those joints are close to fusion and hard end feel. I'm only going to serve to either cause pain or increase damage. So it's a tough population to know how to feel like you're being helpful for them.
Yeah. And sometimes for those patients too, I'll be like, I'm happy. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try my best and do everything I have in my toolbox to help you. And I want you to know that a lot of times when I see these patients that they don't improve, but let's try it for 3 weeks and see where you're at. And if you're getting better, we continue on. And if it's no longer beneficial, then we are done basically.
Yeah. Do you see them once a week or twice a week?
It just depends on if I feel like the patient is really like motivated and they are, they can do it on their own. I might say once a week, but if I feel like they need more supervision and hand holding, then I'll do 2 times a week. Maybe
Okay.
do a total of 6 visits and see where they're at.
And I tend to go to, like, I told this patient, I evaluated today on Wednesday. I said, let's have you come in on Monday. That's 5 days away. And then depending on how it goes, we can see you again on Thursday or Friday. That's twice in the same week. Or if on Monday you feel like you're good with some home program stuff, we'll kick it to the following week. So that becomes, so it's kind of like a PRN basis if we need it or not.
Yeah, and I think you can tell right away the patients that want to be there, right? Like, or that feel like they might need a little more hand holding, and those that just want to be independent.
Yeah. Yeah. Just show me some stuff to do at home. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've had patients, some of them more receptive, some of them less receptive to the basket of adaptive equipment we pull out. It's got an adaptive mouse and kitchen utensils and writing implements and a variety of button aids and that kind of stuff. And some are like, "This is fantastic," and others have this like, "Yeah, I can figure that stuff out on my own." So it's a difficult population that has wide swings of preferences in it.
Yeah. And then for a lot of a few years back, we had a therapist that did her capstone with us, and that's where they do a specialty rotation for 4 months, and it's self designed at whatever that student was interested in. And I had a student that was really interested in arthritis of the hand, and she developed like this 4-part program. So each treatment there was 4 different treatments, and each treatment session focused on something else and a different aspect of it. And that was nice, and that's something we still will implement. Like, we're over this session, we're going to be going over this stuff, the next one, that one. And so making it more of a program. And she ended up getting accepted to AOATA and getting it. She presented it there, which was a big deal for her, and for all of us. We're very proud. But I think sometimes too, just having all those different things that we could work on was helpful. And she had all like the citations, so we would provide the evidence of what's out there to the patients, and
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's helpful.
So, what would you, if there's 4 or 5 or whatever, what were the tools in the toolbox that were like each individual session's focus?
Yeah, so the first session was just like a lot of education on what osteoarthritis is, how it's different than the other types of arthritis, what makes it worse, what makes it better, like what exacerbates your symptoms. It was a really holistic program. So it might be, different movement patterns that exacerbated, but it could also be, we tried to stay away stuff that we weren't as, informed about, like nutrition and stuff like that. But we would talk about, a limited role about exercise. And so that would be one section. And then the next session they came in would be focused on exercises, like safe exercises to do. And then the next section would be all like adaptive equipment. And so we'd have them bring in a list of like all the stuff they were having problems with, and then go through that list and address it with adaptive equipment or maybe some joint protection principles. And
Okay.
then, I think the last one was just kind of like a summary and a recap of everything.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And that's similar to the application of information when we're doing like a first CMC arthritis, OA, where we'll do a session that's maybe we get you into a splint and we work on a couple of adaptive equipment things. And the next session we talk about joint stabilization exercise. So it kind of partitions that out. And then you're not kind of shotgunning everything all the time and kind of all scattered.
Right. And then I think going back to like the core of our evaluations is asking what's important to the patient. Like, why are they seeing us? If we ask them that in the first session, like, do you want recommendations on activity modification and joint protections? And if that's not one of their goals, then it's like, well, we could tell them we do that and we're happy to talk to them about it if they're interested. But if they're not interested, it's hard to get people on board with some of that stuff. So during that first, if it's pain relief, then I might show them joint wrapping and, paraffin and things like that. If it's range of motion, then sometimes it's education on, we're not going to be gaining a lot of range of motion, but
Yeah, yeah. And so will you do like if a patient has softer end feel on, let's say, their right hand's IP joints and they're close to a full fist, but not quite, but it feels stiff, will you take them through or show them how to do self-passive range of motion after a modality? Or do you just say, use your hands functionally for as long as you can?
I might show them, like, it depends. I'll teach them to watch for signals. Like, if your joint is inflamed, we don't want you to be pushing it and doing those things and making it worse. And then I go over, the physiology of the joint and what makes it worse. And then, but if the joint is not inflamed, then I might show them gentle passive range of motion and stretching and then gauge their response. I say, hey, if you're having a lot of pain the rest of the day and into tomorrow, it means that you or me were too aggressive. So you need to back off a bit. And this is very much something that if you do too much passive or you're too aggressive, you can deteriorate the joint more.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I struggle with that as much because the patients so desperately want more range of motion. And it seems almost like we're keeping something back from them because I'm not going to stretch you. Like I don't want to make things worse. And so I'll do, you and I kind of jokingly call it that loving touch, like that sense of like, I'm going to work with your hands. I'm not trying to gain more flexion of all the joints. I'm trying to, I almost act as a modality, I think, in that situation where I'm helping to decrease pain sensitivity and more working on working the joint through its available range, but passively, as opposed to overpressure at the end range, as opposed to a low load prolonged stretch. I'm just trying to find the available range. And so that's more the passive range without the overpressure that I'll apply if that patient is desperately seeking that. And then, like you said, say, how did that feel in the moment? And then when you come back next time, have paid attention to how you felt the next 24 hours. Was that fantastic? Was that worse? Or was it no different?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes down to what the patient wants and their goals are, and then us trying to manage those goals and seeing if it's something we think that we can achieve together, because a lot of times it might not be.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not going to be a long-term ongoing patient. It's not going to be someone that comes for, 6 weeks, 8 weeks or something. We have some tools to give you. We have some things we can help you with. It's just so as someone who wants to help other people, it's kind of tough to have to tell them like that's maybe all we can
Yeah.
do is help you not get worse fast.
Yeah. One thing, I was at AAHS this last year and I was listening to a talk by Wendell Merritt, and he said that he thinks it does a lot of damage to, I think he called it the human spirit, to tell people there's nothing more we can do, or I'm going to discharge you now. And what he recommended, or what his overall message was, hey, how about you follow up with me in a couple of months? I'll put you on the schedule. If you don't need it, cancel it. But no, I'm not giving up on you. I'm still here if you need me. And just, I guess, having that more human side where you're not only concerned about the pathology of the arthritis, you're also concerned about the individual as a human. And I thought that was like a really kind approach.
Yeah, yeah, very kind approach, has a good awareness. And I would imagine that by the time most of those patients get to 6 months out, they probably end up canceling those visits or not, because they kind of come to that realization of, I kind of am where I am, but it's a softer letdown.
Yeah, it's a softer letdown. And I think if they come up with more questions, or, it doesn't seem like you're just dismissing them, or, invalid. I think a lot of times patients feel invalidated if we're not addressing or we're not able to address everything. So I think just still being there and validating them.
Yeah, yeah, very cool. Okay, well, it's just good for us to sometimes talk about the diagnoses and things that don't always work out so great. And sometimes we aren't happy with the tools we have in our toolbox, but it's good to kind of share that experience and see what others can learn from it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on our emails, info at Hand Therapy Academy, or on any of our social media platforms, Hand Therapy Academy.